Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Film Room Podcast. This is episode 24. I'm your host, Joe Baress, and along with my co-host, Joby Fawcett. Joby, how we doing?
Joe, we're hanging in there. Obviously, a very busy week last week in local high school sports. How better to cap what was a very intense week of high school basketball action than with that incredibly exciting game last Friday between Riverside and Holy Cross. Just a tremendous high school battle between two very talented teams. And then obviously we got a little bit of a breather over the weekend, although the NFL playoffs proved quite interesting, Joe.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine the Eagles are playing the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
I know. I know. It's shocking. It's shocking. It's shocking. So yeah, no, listen, Joby, as always, this is going to be the best part of the day. So let's get into it and let's throw it to our athlete of the week. We are joined by Scranton Prep basketball player Brycen Martin. Brycen, how we doing, man?
Doing great. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. What Brycen did last week, he had 34 points in a win over Delaware Valley, and he added 30 points in a win over Wallen-Taupac as well. Let's start with you, Brycen. You know, it looks like you've been averaging 19.3 points per game in your last 7 games. I pulled that from Joby's notebook. But yeah, so what has been working for you recently?
Yeah, I think our ball movement as a team has, definitely been a lot better these past few weeks, and our pace is another thing that I think we really improved on. And when we're playing fast and we're moving the ball and we're getting everyone involved, it just makes it a lot easier on all of us to score. So I think that's really the main two things that have really been working for us.
Yeah, Brycen. So I'm going to take a look at the bigger picture for you at Scranton Prep. So at the beginning of the year, things got off to what I would kind of define as a dicey start. Now, the schedule was very daunting, and that was done with a purpose by head coach Larry Reagan and, of course, the administrative staff there, the athletic department with Grace Simpson and Mark Seitzinger, to get you guys prepared for what you hope will be a strong postseason, kind of similar to what you did last year in getting hot at the right time and getting to the state semifinals. Tell me what were some of the challenges you and your teammates faced early on this season as not only you're trying to play those tough games, but also trying to navigate the ups and downs of a season that includes some defeats.
Yeah, just trying to find our identity was really a big thing for us. We had a lot of guys coming up who didn't really have a ton of experience, so just figuring out who fit where and figuring out everyone's roles were definitely some challenges for us early on. But I think we're starting to figure each other out, and we're starting to play a lot better together as a team.
Absolutely, Brycen. Obviously you got a very, very talented team. You were talking about, figuring out your roles. I mean, how are you able to balance? How is your team able to kind of balance, what they do on the floor for you guys?
Yeah, just, everyone's real unselfish. We got a lot of really good players, but everyone's starting to buy into their role and what we specifically need them to do for the team. So I think as the year progresses even more, I think we'll continue to fit better into our roles.
Brycen, so let me ask you this. You had the lineup tournament over the holiday and you lost to eventual champion Holy Cross in what was a very exciting and energetic game. And then you finished third, the victory in the consolation game over Dunmore, and then had the really difficult, heartbreaking loss to Scranton when Jaden Burrell hit the three-pointer late in the game. Since that time, this offense and this team has played with a lot more focus and attention to detail. What kind of flipped the switch for you and your teammates following that 3-game stretch from right after Christmas?
Yeah, we made a couple little tweaks to our offense, and the thing that Coach Reagan has been preaching the past couple of weeks has been our tempo. We want to play fast and play at our pace and really control the pace of the game, and I think we've been doing a really, really good job of that the past couple of weeks. Absolutely.
Brycen, you're a senior. What is it like being a leader for this team?
It's awesome. They're really a great group of guys, and everyone listens and knows when to tell our teammates, hey, like you need to, you're dogging in practice or something like that. Everyone, loves each other and really gets along really well. So it's really easy.
All right, Brycen. So I'm going to hit you with another tough question for you, believe it or not. So in the Lackawanna Division I, you have a couple of pretty fierce rivals. Okay, it starts with Abington Heights, I would think. It filters down to what has really been a brutal rivalry the last couple of years with Valley View. And of course, you have Scranton as well. But so in those games in the first half of the season, we talked already about the loss to Scranton, but you had the two big wins over Abington Heights and Valley View. What's it like to be a high school basketball player and involved in those types of really, really fierce rivalries?
It's a lot of fun. Those are definitely games that we have circled on our calendar at the beginning of the year. The atmospheres are always amazing, and having a rivalry against some of my friends that play for some of those teams, it's really cool and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about your team again. What is there a teammate that has impressed you the most this season? Anyone that stuck out?
I mean, everyone's impressed me a lot this season.
Yeah.
It's hard to pick one, but playing with my brother this year has been really cool and something that I haven't gotten the chance to do in the past couple of years. So it's nice to be back on the court with him.
Yeah, that's got to be exciting for you and your brother, who's had a couple of pretty good games for you as well. Is that something you two will chat about then after the game, about the ways both of you were able to contribute to a win?
Yeah, we'll definitely, talk a lot after games, watch film together, could give each other our criticisms and what we liked about each other's game. Definitely a lot of basketball talk in our house.
Absolutely. So, Brycen, I read in your Athlete of the Week interview that you're going to Ursinus next year. Tell me about that decision. How'd you land there?
Yeah, so they've been recruiting me for the past year and a half probably. So it's been a while that they've been on me, and they just really checked all the boxes for my family and I. From the day we stepped on campus there, the coaching staff was great. We love all the coaches, and the culture of the program was another thing that really stood out to us. And then along with that, academics always come first, and we were really happy with what they offered academically, and the location being right outside of Philly was kind of perfect spot that I was looking for.
Oh, congratulations, Brycen. I hadn't known about that information. That's outstanding for you. So listen, getting back to what we're trying to accomplish here this year with the Scranton Prep basketball team, obviously you've turned the corner a little bit. You're tied for first place with Scranton. You'll be playing the Knights at Scranton on Monday night. This program is being recorded on Tuesday night. So let me ask you this. Knowing that you've played already a very close game, what's the biggest key for you in that matchup and trying to continue building this momentum for what you're going to need in the postseason?
I think we just need to continue focused on us and, playing the style that we want to play. I think we're a totally different team than when we played them the first time. So I think if we continue to play the way that we have the past couple of weeks, I think it'll put us in a good spot tomorrow night.
Brycen, what do you think about Scranton? Obviously, that's a team also with a great championship pedigree. Last year, both of your teams, you at Scranton Prep and Scranton, won District 2 championships. What's that like when two teams of that caliber play against each other?
Oh, hang on. We've lost Brycen for a second here.
Okay.
Oh, Brycen. Oh, I think you're back. All right. Sorry, we lost you there for a second.
We may have lost him, Joe.
We may have lost Brycen. That is unfortunate. Joby, I'm very excited to ask Brycen about, the NFL, as you had mentioned at the top of the show.
Am I back?
So hopefully you are back. Yes, we've got
Sorry
you.
about that.
No, you're good.
Yeah, circling back to that Scranton question. Scranton's a great team, and I've enjoyed playing against them the past couple of years. We've had a ton of, really fun battles with them. Having a chance to play a team like that in our league every year is really a great challenge for us, and one that we look forward to. That'll definitely help us down the road.
Absolutely. So Brycen, I've been waiting to ask you this. I saw that you are an Eagles fan, so geez, what a great victory for them to get to the Super Bowl. How'd it feel yesterday?
I'm still pumped up. It feels great. I'm looking forward to the Super Bowl in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Now,
No, go
now,
ahead.
Bryson, go ahead, Joe. I wanted to ask him really quickly how he celebrated. Like, where did you watch the game with a bunch of friends? Did you watch it? A lot of Eagles fans like to watch those games in solitude because they tend to lose their temper or their patience. But how did you celebrate that?
It was just my family and I were watching. My dad and I are big fans, so we were glued to the TV for a good couple of hours, and we're still super pumped that they won. So hopefully they could finish the job in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think of, obviously you faced the Chiefs in the title game before, that was a very tough loss for the Eagles, but, what do you think of the Eagles coming in this year against a great, obviously, Kansas City team?
I'm pretty confident right now with the way they looked yesterday. I think we're a totally different team than 2 years ago. So, I think if we play like we did yesterday, we're going to be tough to beat.
That's awesome. Bryson, listen, just based on you telling me you watched the game with your dad, I want to share with you one of the great memories I have growing up is watching the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I'm not an Eagles fan, but my dad and my brother's an over-the-top Eagles fan, way back in 1980. Now, we watched this game in probably about a 20-inch television because back then those were the size of the TVs. But one of my great memories was watching the Eagles beat the Cowboys in what eventually was the 1980 season, but 1981 NFC Championship game, the Cowboys in those blue jerseys. And I can remember when Wilbert Montgomery scored on a 42-yard touchdown run, and my brother, all 8 years old of him, and my dad just yelling and screaming in the basement. I'm sure you and your dad shared a similar memory yesterday when Saquon went 60 yards on the first carry. So treasure those moments, Bryson.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, we were going nuts yesterday.
I believe it.
Great.
I believe it. So let's just curious about something else too, Bryson. You said that, some athletes you admire, Jalen Hurts, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. What if you had a chance to go up against any basketball player one-on-one, who would it be and why?
I got to say Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Growing up, he's always been my favorite player. Watching, highlights of his games back in the day. So that would definitely be a dream come true for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Joby, you got anything else for Bryson?
Well, again, I just want to congratulate Bryson on what was a terrific week scoring the basketball, but not only that, continuing to help Scranton Prep improve on the basketball court. I've only had a chance to see him play once this year in that semifinal game in the Linus tournament, and I'm looking forward to seeing him on Tuesday night against Scranton. And I remember what a great contributor he was last year, him and Packy Doherty, to that great Scranton Prep State playoff run. So congratulations on your Athlete of the Week honor, Bryson. I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bryson.
Look forward to seeing you as well. Thank you guys for having me.
Appreciate it. All right. That was Bryson.
Great stuff there, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. A great kid. That was Brycen Martin from Scranton Prep, brought to you by the Athlete of the Week, brought to you by the Lehigh Valley Orthopedic Institute. Joby, I make this joke all the time, but he scored 64 points in 2 games. That's more than I scored in my entire high school career.
Yeah, and certainly more than I did because I didn't play basketball. So everyone's got the advantage there, Joe, for me. But yeah, look, this team has turned a corner.
Right.
Okay. And Bryson kind of described it as they've kind of moved more toward a big open floor game, trying to speed up the tempo. And it has worked. I think they're averaging somewhere in the neighborhood of 68 to 69 points a game in the last 7. Yep. That's pretty impressive on the high school level because there's so few opportunities to score. And that's quite a combination that Scranton Prep has there, Joe, with Brycen Martin and Packy Doherty. So we'll see how it carries through here. Again, big game on Tuesday night. I'm still messed up with the Tuesday-Friday combination I have to get used to. But, yeah, that game is Tuesday night at Scranton High School. Should be a good rematch. And, again, I want to remind everybody, these are teams now trying to kind of get everything going in the right direction as they get ready for the postseason here, Joe. And clearly one of the goals for any team is going to be winning a Lackawanna League Division title. And Scranton Prep are tied at the top of the standings right now. So critical game in Division I on Tuesday night.
critical game, Joby. And like you're saying, you've been saying this last few weeks, this is when the teams are absolutely getting moving in the right direction. Like Brycen said, knowing their roles, jiving as a team. I mean, and you could see it, and one of those teams is absolutely Scranton Prep. They're really putting it in the right direction here.
Up to number 5, I think, in the poll this week, right, Joe?
Exactly. So let's talk about that, Joby. Scranton Prep at number 5. But in the boys poll, you happen to be at another great game between Riverside and Holy Cross. Riverside pulled that one out and overtook the number 1 spot from Holy Cross. Holy Cross fell only to number 2. Joby, you were at that game. I heard it was packed at like 6:00. So tell me a little bit about that game.
Well, it was interesting, Joe, because I received a telephone call from Times-Tribune photographer Sean McKegg while I was still in transit to the Riverside High School on Friday, and he had informed me that he was not being allowed into the facility because it was sold out. Now, that was at 6:00. So I was a little nervous, but,
sure.
I had already spoken with the athletic director, Danny Digwood, earlier in the day, and I knew they were going to allow me to get in. But, Joe, look, anytime you can get that kind of an atmosphere between two terrific basketball teams, it's a great experience, certainly for me as a high school sports writer. But even the fan experience, I didn't think anything was too outrageous. I thought both student sections were very supportive of their schools, obviously, but also of the play that was on the court, very respectful of that. I thought that the crowd was really into the game. It was a very well-played game. I know people will be deceived a little bit by the score in terms of execution, but these are two very intense defensive basketball teams, first and foremost, and they both have outstanding playmakers who, in this game in particular, came through very big in the clutch. I'm speaking about Riverside senior Jerry Rose and freshman Nico Antonacci. So, look, Joe, it was one of those things. The two teams played earlier in the year at Holy Cross, which is an extremely difficult venue to play at if you're a visiting team. You know that. You played there, Joe. It was extremely difficult for you to play there as a home team. So it is a very cozy gymnasium. The fans are right on top of you. I'm not to say that that's not the case at Riverside. It's a little bit more spacious. And Riverside just shot the ball extremely badly in that game against Holy Cross. Now, a lot of that had to do with the Holy Cross defense of C.J. Thompson front and Adam Bedurka and Matt Lyons, of course, in the post. But the 59-39 outcome or 29 outcome in that game was extremely shocking.
Right.
And I did expect a much better game and a more well-played game in the rematch here. Now, what this does, Joe, is it sets the stage, okay? These are the top two teams in Class 3A this year. We have to keep in mind that Holy Cross had to move up in classification based upon the two transfers it has in the lineup and its success in the state playoffs the previous two seasons. So in order to win a district title, Holy Cross and Riverside have to go through one of the others.
Right.
And so you can only get one champion, Joe.
Yep.
So I'm not going to lock in a round 3. We always thought that was going to be the case with the Rocky saga in the movies.
Yep.
And we were going to get Apollo Creed in Rocky 3 when, in fact, we got Mr. T and Clubber Lang.
Right.
So I don't want to necessarily guarantee that both of these teams are going to play again in the district final because anything can happen in high school basketball, but certainly they're going to be the favorites.
Right.
To meet a third time. But if they do, it's going to be a really good basketball game. But this was a terrific game. Congratulations to Riverside on the victory. Those two teams are now tied for first place in the Lackawanna Division II standings. And Joe, you know what ties mean, don't you?
You have to play it off.
They could be facing a playoff.
That's right.
At the end of the year. So when I say maybe around 3, I'm going to guess. Chances are pretty good we're going to get around 3. But again, that's down the road. Terrific game. Congratulations. But there are some battles still ahead for both of those teams, Joe.
Right.
Because Old Forge is the number 3 ranked team.
Right. Exactly. So, Joby, quickly, I want to say, like, I as a Holy Cross alum, I feel responsible for the Holy Cross loss, and here's why. I told someone I know, tell the Holy Cross team, give an impassioned speech about how they need to play defense in this game against Riverside. And I feel like giving up 50 points to a high-powered Riverside team is pretty good. I just left out the offensive part where they only scored 41 points. So I feel kind of responsible.
Yeah, Joe. So listen, if you're coming back out of this game, you're Holy Cross, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Coming into the game, Riverside, I think, had scored 80 or more points in 5 of 8 games, right?
Right.
So you hold Riverside to 50 points. That's a pretty good effort. Now, I was really impressed with the defensive performance of Riverside because, again, this is a team that gave up, I want to say 59 points to Riverside or Holy Cross the first time around.
Yep, that's right.
And it really could have been a lot more. I mean, obviously, you get into that running clock with the big margin of victory. But that being said, Holy Cross only scored 41 points.
Right.
And Holy Cross is a high-powered offense as well. I think Holy Cross scored 94 points in the game leading into this matchup.
They did.
Yeah, this is a team that can have any number of any one of the starters at Holy Cross can score in double figures for you.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, it was a really intense basketball game, Joe, and anybody who got a chance to see it in person, which, again, they did cut off the attendance because of fire concerns and that whatnot. The game was, a very well-played basketball game.
Yep. And as you mentioned, Nico Antonacci and Jerry Rose, they both had 17 points in that game. Antonacci also added 25 points in a win over Western Wayne earlier in the week. And we mentioned the Old Fords. They are the number 3 team. Cameron Parker had 16 points in a win over Dunmore and 22 in a win over Honesdale. So there's your top 3 teams.
Yeah, Joe, look at Holy Cross, Old Forge lost to Holy Cross the first time, 61-56. It was a very tight basketball game right down until the end. A couple of forced free throws. You know, with that new rule, Joe, where you're automatically shooting 2.
Right.
Holy Cross is much more comfortable at the line in that scenario.
Certainly.
As any high school player would be, whereas they used to have the 1-on-1 situation. And so it made it extremely difficult for Old Forge to come back 61-56 in that game. And Old Forge's other losses to Riverside in overtime. Okay.
Right.
Now, the challenge here for Old Forge moving forward is both of those games were played at the Devil's Den.
Right.
Now, Old Forge is going to have to try to accomplish a victory in those games on the road in front of a hostile crowd and a very challenging environment. So, but yeah, Old Forge has the weapons to do it.
Yep.
Certainly, Cameron Parker's an outstanding offensive player, and Logan Fanning in the middle, all 6'6" of them. He's clearly one of the taller players Old Forge has had in a long time. This game against Holy Cross means a lot to Old Forge. We've all done the math. Only one time has Holy Cross lost to Old Forge in its history. I believe that number is now, 39-1, Joe?
I believe so.
Yeah, you're the one. Your team is the one.
My team is the one.
Remind everybody on that. But listen, that could change Tuesday night, Joe, because, again, Old Forge played Holy Cross extremely tough first time around, so we'll see how it plays out. But, yeah, Old Forge is definitely going to be a factor here. For anybody who's already celebrating a possible playoff for the Division II championship, don't forget about Old Forge.
Exactly. Here come the Blue Devils all the time. And so as you mentioned, Joby, Scranton Prep, they're number 4 and number 5 in the boys poll. Abington Heights is 6, Valley View 7, Delaware Valley 8, Dunmore 9, Elk Lake 10. Anything else you want to mention there on the boys' side?
Just quickly, I want to, mention Elk Lake because down in Division III, sometimes you get a little bit put in the back burner here because of what has happened to the higher levels, the higher divisions here in the Lackawanna League. Great job by head coach John Warnero up there. Elk Lake now 13-3 now. Clinging to a 1-game lead in the division standings with Lackawanna Trail hot on their heels. So that should be an interesting game later on in the second half of the season. And also, you look at that cluster there, Joe, from 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, we said?
Yep.
All members of the Lackawanna League Division 1.
Right.
And it's kind of a strange situation, right? Because Scranton is ranked 4th in our poll,
Right.
sharing first place with Scranton Prep in the division standings. And Delaware Valley, which is down at number 8 in the poll, which is the last of that Division I grouping, has a 30-point win over Scranton. So
yeah.
it's gonna be interesting to see how this all works its way through in the second half of the schedule with the head-to-head battles that we're going to have. And it certainly gets off to a rolling start here this week with that Scranton Prep at Scranton game. Should be a really good basketball game. It was so thrilling the last time around with Jaden Burrell hitting that three-pointer with a second left to go in the game. So looking forward to that one on Tuesday.
Absolutely. So let's talk about some of the performances, other boys basketball performances. Jordan Schaefer of Abington Heights. Boys basketball, he had 25 points in a win over West Scranton and 11 points in a win over Wallenpaupack. Joby, it was actually pretty cool when you did a feature on him. I didn't realize, I know Matt Schaefer. He used to, he was a coach when I was coming up with,
Sure.
when I was a young guy. So that was kind of cool to see. It was just like, oh yeah, I know him. So
Yeah.
good for that family, obviously. Chase Pond, you mentioned Elk Lake. Yep. 28 points in a win over Montrose, 20 in a win over Forest City. Paxton Pingarelli of Blue Ridge, he had 30 points in a win over Susquehanna, 16 in a win over Mountain View. And that's what I've got for the boys basketball performances of the week. So let's move on to the girls poll. Obviously, Scranton Prep continues to roll. They're 15-0. They're number one in the girls poll. They've been number one the whole time. They're actually playing tonight. We're recording this Monday night. Our coworker Scott Walsh will be at that game. Scranton Prep Scranton. Scranton is number 5. We also have Valley View remains at 2. Dunmore stays at 3. Elk Lake 4. Elk Lake doing well in girls and boys this year, obviously.
I think that's kind of a common theme this year, Joe, if you look at the top of the rankings.
It's a good point. I actually didn't notice that until now. But I don't know how. Number 6, Honesdale. 7, Mountain View. 8, North Pocono. 9, Abington Heights. And 10, Mid-Valley. Let me talk about some of the performances last week. The one that truly sticks out, Maggie Coleman of Abington Heights. She had 19 points, including 6 3-pointers in a win over West Scranton. And she scored 25 points, including the 1,000th of her career to go along with 7 threes, which included the 200th 3-pointer of her career in a win over Wallenpaupack. So a few milestones for Maggie Coleman. Congratulations to her.
Joe,
go ahead.
I've long built a reputation as being the master of the obvious.
Yeah.
That 200 3-pointers, that's a big number.
I was going to say, I felt like that was a big number when I saw that come in.
Now, we did have an inquiry, Joe, in all fairness. Someone had what the league record is. Now, we don't keep league records in basketball for obvious reasons, but I would venture to think that that's got to be one of the more impressive numbers, not only locally, but I would think even on the state level. I mean, 200. That's a big number.
Exactly. That was kind of my thought as well when that stat came in. So that's really cool. And it's a game of 3-pointers now, Joby. That's it. You got to be able to shoot the 3.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, every week I put together the stat leaders that are published on the Times-Tribune.com. And if you look, I want to say Nico Antonacci leads the boys. Now he's up over 3 3-pointers per game.
Mm-hmm.
And we listened to top 5 this week in both the boys and the girls. I could probably go down even further down, about 10 to 11 or 12, and they're all still up over 2 per game. And I can remember back when, not too long ago, where if you averaged 2, you were leading the league in 3-pointers. So the game has evolved, and I think the skill set of the players has certainly evolved as well, Joe.
Absolutely. Yeah, to your point, Jenna Hillebrand, 3.2 threes a game. Julia McCullen, 3.1. Meg Coleman, 3.1.
Okay, so right off the bat, there's three girls.
Yeah.
With more than three pointers per game. I mean, that's a pretty impressive number.
Exactly. And Kira Burke of Susquehanna, 3 a game. Like you said, Nico Antonacci, 3.4 threes a game. Chase Pond, 2.9. Adam Badurka, 2.8.
Joe, the funny thing about the Nico Antonacci and Adam Badurka, they've got a little bit of a rivalry going, obviously, with the stat leadership there in the 3-point. Listen, they knocked down some contested threes Friday. Those weren't wide open, got left alone in the corner type shots. They had guys in there mushed, and they launched them up and they were hitting them.
It's really impressive. So
it was.
Yeah. So we've got, speaking of people hitting threes, Addison Kilmer.
My goodness gracious.
I mean, 27 points and 5 threes in a win over Blue Ridge, 19 points and 3 threes in a win over Carbondale area.
Now, Joe, can I mention something really quick? I hate to cut you off like that, but here's the thing. So Addison Kilmer, for anyone who may not recognize and doesn't know when we talk about her, why we're so candidly impressed, is she's 6'1", okay? And she's an outstanding post player. She has dominated the Class 1A state playoffs for the last 2 years.
Right.
Okay. Last year, she was the state player of the year in Class 1A. And one of the things that helps you get recruited really quickly when you're her size is showing an ability to shoot the outside shot. Now, she knew that, so she really worked hard on that to develop that part of her game. Now, her sister, Riley Kilmer, is an outstanding 3-point shooter in her own right.
Yep.
So that helped. And, she's a tireless worker, this young player. And she's only a junior and certainly has increased her collegiate recruiting profile by adding that 3-point shot.
Oh, certainly. Certainly. So that'll be interesting to see as we move forward with her career. Jenna Hillebrand, as I mentioned, Scranton Prep girls basketball, had 23 points in a win over Wallenpaupack and 15 in a win over Delaware Valley. And of course, Natalie Goldstein, she of Holmesdale, she had 28 points in a win over Holy Cross and 24 points in a win over Old Forge. From a mention every week of Natalie Goldstein, we should probably get like a sponsor or something.
Well, listen, no, she's a terrific player, and that Holmesdale program dropped down into that Division II, playing against. I shouldn't say dropped down, just moved to Division II, playing against the Dunmores, Old Forges, and Mid Valleys this year under first-year coach Joe Reno. And what a great season that the Lady Hornets are having. Sometimes you get kind of ambushed by the outstanding performance that Dunmore always puts on the court every year in the girls basketball. But this has been a pretty solid season for Holmesdale, and the team has some very well-coached players out there executing, and Natalie's one of those great players.
Absolutely. So that's what I've got for the performances of the week for girls basketball. Joby, is there anything else you want to touch on girls basketball wise before I dip into? I've got a lot to say about wrestling, Joby.
I know you do, Joe. And I want to give you the opportunity. I want to give you a chance to kind of get a little bit of water, get yourself squared away, get ready to go, as you have a big tournament coming up here, the postseason getting ready to kick off. But just really quickly, okay, so the most intriguing division race in girls basketball seems to be down in Division III. Okay, Dunmore in Division II and Scranton Prep in Division I have kind of firmly established themselves as the favorite moving forward in Division I and Division II respectively. Okay, in Division III, Elk Lake beat Mountain View the first time around in a very tight game. Okay, and they'll be playing again later on this year for first place, but right now Elk Lake has that spot, has only lost one game overall the entire season, and Mountain View is what I think 13-3 right now. So yes, that should be a game later on down the road. We're going to talk more about, you and I, but that division seems to be the one that's going to be the most competitive moving forward for a division championship.
Absolutely. So we'll keep an eye on that. A lot of good.
So you're charged up, Joe? You're ready to go?
I'm charged up. Yeah,
All right.
I feel like I have a lot to say.
That'll give me a chance to get a little break here too.
Exactly. So I'll just go off here a little bit. First of all, let's quickly talk about last week. We had some teams wrap up Lackawanna League Division titles. As you know, as I had said last week, Walnut-Paupack finished undefeated after a win over Scranton. Honesdale beat Valley View in a battle of unbeatens to capture another Division II title, their second straight. Walnut-Paupack's Division I title was their first league title in their program's history. And also, but I ended up watching the Blue Ridge Scranton Prep Division III title match at Scranton Prep. And this is a match that Scranton Prep won last year by 3. So Blue Ridge really came in and they wanted that title, and they absolutely delivered in a really dominant performance for Blue Ridge, winning its first league title since 2019. They were absolutely excellent, hunting for pins, rallying in matches. They were just ready to go. So congratulations to Blue Ridge. Pretty interesting story that I just kind of happened upon while I was there. I'm glad that Nathan Orapollo came over to talk to me, and I didn't know this, he actually had a tumor in his knee last season, and that's why he missed everything except the individual district championships last year. And at that point, he just went 1-2. How are you supposed to, come back and prepare for districts like right off the bat? But so I'm really happy for him. He came out in this match, and he had the first match and came out, got a pin, really set the tone for this team. Had to miss last year's match. So really, really great story with him. I thought it was funny too when he was talking to me. He was just like, yeah, I mean, I had a tumor in my knee, but it was benign, so it wasn't that big of a deal. I'm just like, a tumor is serious business. So it was just interesting to, see how he obviously he handled it very well. That would take a mental toll on me, but he came back and, he's having a nice little season for himself. So congratulations to him. And,
I just want to stop you though. I don't hate interrupting you, but I do want to say that was a great job by you.
Thank you.
But I mean, obviously he helped you out a little bit, but
yes,
that's what good beat writers dig out of those types of things, those types of meets, is you find that kind of a neat story that, look, sometimes us as sports fans, the general public, don't realize that athletes, even on the high school level, sometimes have to go through some real personal challenges that don't necessarily have anything to do with sports at all. And you kind of said there that Nathan was ho-hum about it, but I'm sure he wasn't so ho-hum about it, and nor was his family ho-hum about it when it happened. So great job by him and his family, and I just want to wish them the very best as well.
Definitely. And Joby, so now let's move on to on Saturday. Again, we're talking about, we're talking about Brian Hurt again. He wins a Coal Cracker title. That's another premier tournament in this area at Lehighton High School. He had never won the tournament before. He beat someone from Faith Christian Academy in the final. Always, anytime you beat someone from a program like Faith Christian, it's big time. Brian is absolutely rolling this season. Just really, he's doing it the right way. He's better than ever, and I'm really excited to see what he could do, once the individual postseason comes around. I also want to, I always mention him, but Mason Whitney, he finished second at this tournament, and he lost to Faith Christian's Joey Bachman, who's a state champion last season and is ranked number 1 in the state right now, according to PA Power Wrestling. Bachman I don't want to say only managed, but he did win the bout, but he only won 2-0 over Whitney. That's a hell of an effort for Whitney to come away only losing 2-0 to that caliber. Obviously it speaks to Whitney. That's another kid I can't wait to see. He's only a sophomore. Great things heading his way the rest of his career. He's got plenty of time. And this is also a tournament. Abington Heights finished as 9th. Wallenpaupack finished as 10th. And there was Honesdale who finished 11th. For Wallenpaupack, you had Tristan Braxton with a 6th place finish, Gabe Caulfield and Zayden Schock with 7th place finishes. And Nick Skokos, while he did not place, he did earn his 100th career victory at Charlton. So congratulations to Nick. For Honesdale, Nathan Schumann, a super freshman for them at 107, placed 5th. Mason Avery, Duke Martin placed 6th, and Logan Dietrich, a nice 8th place finish for him for Honesdale. Obviously, the Almadina brothers, Matt and Sam. Matt placed 4th and Sam placed 5th in their respective weight classes for the Spartans. So that's another nice weekend of tournaments for our kids. But we have a tournament coming up this week. Well, a couple, Class 3A and Class 2A, the District 2 team duels tournaments. So the seeding for that is in Class 3A, Wallenpaupack is the top seed. They should be. They're going to host Crestwood, Abington Heights, and North Pocono on Wednesday. Abington Heights and North Pocono will face off in the quarterfinals. Crestwood will face Wallenpaupack in the quarterfinals. The semifinals will also be that night. So it's 5:30 quarterfinals, 7 o'clock semifinals. We also have Piston Area is going to host the other Class 3A quarterfinals and semifinals. They're going to face Delaware Valley, and Hazleton Area, the 3 seed, is going to face number 6 seed Wilkes-Barre Area. And against the same times, 5:37 on Wednesday. The finals will be at the higher seeded team on Saturday at tentatively 12:30 p.m. It's usually at Pittston Area, but they're not hosting all the teams this year, so it will be at the higher seeds for both 3A and 2A. Speaking of 2A, Honesdale takes the top seed, absolutely deserves it. They will face Hanover Area, the 8th seed, and they'll also host Valley View and Lackawanna Trail quarterfinal match, the number 4 and 5 seeds. And again, all the same times, 5:30, 7 o'clock on Wednesday. Dallas will host the other Class 2A quarterfinal, semifinal matches. Dallas will face Mid-Valley, the number 7 seed, and Berwick will face Western Wayne, the 3 and the 6 seed. Again, same thing, higher seed for the finals will host. Joby, what I want to kind of touch on here is I think you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the power rankings generally work as far as the other sports. Am I correct on that?
Well, I happen to think that they do, Joe, but there would be some people who have had the power ratings not work in their favor,
right.
would argue that they don't. But truly in the other sports, and again, I only know the sports I deal with, which would be tennis, volleyball, football, basketball, they seem to work, and generally they play out. Right. I'll say this. There aren't many upsets, if that's what you're kind of kicking around. But I did see that you have a bone to pick with seeing that maybe some sort of revision that you could use to help in the wrestling part of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's basically sorry to throw a question at you right off the cuff there.
No,
I probably should have jumped in, but I don't think the power ratings work for wrestling. And this year, so they judge it by the number of dual meets. They don't take into account that some teams go out and wrestle individual tournaments, like I mentioned, the Coal Cracker. So you have some people wrestling 21 dual meets and others are wrestling 10. And it just doesn't make any sense.
Well, that right off the bat, Joe, gives you the variable that would concern me with wrestling.
Right, exactly. And just looking at it, I was talking to our coworker, Tom Fox, also a wrestling beat writer,
yes,
for the Citizens Voice. And, it's
that's
just
touchdown Tommy, by the way.
That's right. So it's just, Like what is the fix then? I just think it's looking at it and and using common sense.
Well, Joe, let's be careful.
I hate to
Let's
put
be
it.
careful.
That's the thing. I don't mean to put it that. I don't mean to like, but it's just, I feel like that might be the only solution. So just to give an example, I mean, so the Lackawanna League Division I is a fantastic division, and you've got all these teams. West Scranton lost to Wallenpaupack by 3. Delaware Valley beat Abington Heights, the 4 seed. Delaware Valley is the 7 seed. West Scranton, the defending District 2 duels champion, out, not even in the field, and they beat Delaware Valley, again, the 7 seed. And it just the way they match up, and it's just different between the leagues as well, from team to team. Pittston Area's got the 2 seed. They went 17-4, so they wrestled 21 dual meets, but their opponents' weighted winning percentage is .37. And you're looking at, just again, to keep an example of a West Scranton team, they only wrestled 10 dual meets this year, and their opponent's weighted winning percentage is .60, which is the highest.
That's a big margin. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And it just doesn't make sense to me. There was an issue last year too, I felt, because there always has to be a Lackawanna League host and a Wyoming Valley Conference host. So that messed with the seeding last year. There was a team that was the Wyoming Valley Conference team that was the 3 seed, should have been the 3 seed, but got bumped up to the 2 seed, knocking down obviously all the teams below it. So Wallenpaupack moved to the 3 seed, Abington moved to the 4 seed. So that just becomes unfair for everybody, because instead now the 1 seed has to face the 3 seed essentially in the semifinals. And
yeah, Joe, this looks like it's something that you have to bring up in a column, and I believe you're going to put one together, Joe.
Exactly. I'm going to do that, because if I keep talking about this, we're going to go way over. So
yeah, well, the thing about it
is, do you kind of get what I'm saying about it?
Joe,
it doesn't make sense.
I dealt with this for years when they didn't use power ratings as a way, for years, especially with basketball. And I think you knew about this, Joe, where division champions automatically got top seeds. And, you're talking about different competition levels in different divisions. Okay. And that argument used to come up all the time. And again, I think the power rating has helped a lot in that regard for basketball. But based on what you're telling me here, and I can only go by the evidence you're giving me, I'd have to look much more closely at the PIAAD2.org to kind of break it down. But yeah, if West Scranton gets knocked out with a opponent's winning percentage of .6, that's a pretty incredible number when someone else is getting in ahead of them. So, yeah, something to certainly look for, Joe, and get to that wrestling committee meeting.
Right. And not that, it's like you've said in the past, there's no problem with looking at something and seeing if something can work better,
Right.
Because this system is, at least for wrestling, it's flawed just because of all the variables within it. I understand the power rating system, but it's just flawed, and I really think it needs to be tweaked in some way. So
let's look for that in Wednesday's paper, right, Joe?
You know it. Oh, now I got to write it. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, well, you have to now. I put it out.
It's out there now. So
you do that to me every week.
I do all the time. You're right. It's about time for payback.
That's right.
So Joby, let me allow you to, if you want to talk about this, Jeff Wasilchak making that Hall of Fame. You had a story over the weekend.
Yeah, I couldn't be happy. I couldn't be happier for Jeff Wasilchak. First of all, full disclosure, of course, I attended and played football at Lakeland High School. Now, I never had the honor of playing for, or the privilege to play for his dad, Jerry Wasilchik, who had retired 1 year before my sophomore season. I was a freshman then. But I can remember growing up. Now, remember, Joe, I moved into the district in 1978. So I got a chance to see the 79 team at Lakeland and the 1980 team and all the way up till 1984 when Jerry Wasilchak was the head coach at Lakeland. And he was, of course, a guidance counselor in our school. But I got to know Jeff Wasilchak when both of us were assistant coaches, first at Lakeland, and then Jeff was hired at Lackawanna Trail. And I joined his staff there for 2 years when I was imitating or pretending to be a football coach on the high school level. And just a wonderful family. Jerry Wasilchak and his wife Ann, and now have all both passed. But Jeff and his brother Scott have been kind of Batman and Robin for a long time. The job that they did, and Jeff in particular did at Lackawanna Trail in 1997 when he arrived on campus, there was no locker room. There was some kind of beat up bleachers. Lackawanna Trail played on Saturday afternoons. First year roster, I think, had 23 players on it. And Jeff and Scott combined to build that Lackawanna Trail program in a very short period of time into the dominant Class 1A program in District 2, winning 7 championships, 4 in a row from 2001 to 2005. So congratulations to him on that great honor. But then, of course, him moving on to coach at Lakeland, which I know was a lifelong dream of his, to kind of carry on the Wasilchak name for a program that his dad had built into such a great football championship tradition there. And not long after, Jerry Wasilchak has now been elected to the Pennsylvania Scholastic Football Coaches Association Hall of Fame. Jeff Wasilchak takes his place in the Hall of Fame as well. And I couldn't be happier. I'm ecstatic for him. When I got the text message from Lackawanna Trail coach Steve Jervis on Saturday, I got right on the phone to congratulate Jeff and got a chance to talk with him. And look, in the process of doing that, putting together a story, I got a chance to kind of reach out and talk to and have conversations with kids I coached.
Yeah.
John Lynn, Jimmy Colvin, Richie Jackson. So it was neat. And great honor for a person who truly deserves that recognition here in the state of Pennsylvania. He's done a great job, and now he's assisting Coach Scott Wasilchak at Valley View, which is where he played football as a high school player. And just a great guy. There isn't anybody who could say a bad thing about him. And I'm thrilled for him and his family.
Absolutely. No, he is a great guy. So is Scott as well. Always great to me after games and everything. So congratulations to him. Joby, speaking of someone you formerly coached, he was on the sidelines on this Sunday for the NFC Championship game. Did you get I know you got a lot going on. Did you get any chance to watch any football yesterday?
I did. I happened to feel pretty good when the Commanders had the fake punt, and the reason being that John Glenn, who I mentioned earlier, who I coached in high school at Lackawanna Trail at quarterback and outside linebacker, who is the assistant special teams coach for the Washington Commanders. So I thought that was pretty neat. But, Joe, what a great weekend for us in terms of local connections to the championship games in the National Football League with John Glenn at the Washington Commanders, Vic Fangio, who is going to be the defensive coach of the year in the National Football League. What a great job he's done with the Philadelphia Eagles and now going to the Super Bowl. Well, congratulations to him and his family that is still here in Dunmore. He's just done a tremendous job there with the Philadelphia Eagles. We had Connor McGovern with the Buffalo Bills, unfortunately did not win against Kansas City in that AFC Championship game, but he played a terrific football game. He was an outstanding high school player for Lake Lehman and played at Penn State as well. So it's going to be neat to see Vic Fangio and the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. So we'll see how that plays out for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I thought, I really thought Washington was going to hang with them, and
Joe,
they
55
didn't.
points is a big number.
It's a lot of points.
55 points is a big number, Joe.
That Barkley guy is pretty good, huh?
Yeah, I've heard that. A lot of Penn State fans keep chiming in with these critiques of how great he is. Amazing.
Exactly. And,
It's always mind-boggling to me. Not mind-boggling because I played the position of running back, but it's incredible to watch a great running back, a guy who can really make people miss in the open field, who's got outstanding vision, who's got great power when he runs inside, and incredible speed when he gets that second level.
Yep.
How he can excel behind
right.
is the best offensive line in the National Football League.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So
you need that combination, Joe.
You do. You absolutely do. And it's going to be, I mean, can they take down the Chiefs? I don't know. I don't know exactly. So it should be interesting. Buffalo falls to Kansas City, as you mentioned again. It's just crushing to like.
Well, I know we don't have a lot of time, Joe, but I really wish some of these NFL coaches would just stop with the quarterback sneaks, quote unquote.
Oh my God. Yep.
You know, this is the National Football League, and I get it that the Eagles do it better than anybody else. It really doesn't seem like it's a legal play, but clearly it is because they're able to do it. The Bills don't do it the same way the Eagles do, so you're not going to be as successful as the Eagles are at it.
Right.
And, Joe, here's the thing, and I know we're running short on time, but I just want to say this. On 4th and 1, the most critical play of that game, you have to know that that's the most critical play of the game. Mm-hmm. You cannot be hustling to the line of scrimmage, trying to fool the defense. You need to collect yourselves. You need to run an effective play. You need to keep that drive going. You need to produce points, and I mean a touchdown on that drive if you want to go to the Super Bowl. You never leave it in the hands of an official to make the judgment on the call or the placement of the football. Run a play, get a first down, keep the chains moving. You score a touchdown there, you've decided your fate.
Right.
That's all I have to say.
I love it, Joby. I love it, Joby.
Done with my rant on the quarterback.
That is fantastic. I love it. Well, Joby, I'm sure we'll talk about it again next week. But yeah, a lot of happy Eagle fans around here. So we are going to wrap it up again. You know, be sure to follow us, subscribe to this podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, and here we're recording on Podbean. You can listen to it in all those places. You know, there's going to be, obviously we talked about, there's going to be a lot of great sports action this week, you know, and please follow along times-tribune.com/sports. We'll have, me and Joby will have some highlights for you. I'll share them on our Instagram page, Times-Tribune Sports, and Joby will share it on his Facebook page, Joby Fawcett, the Times-Tribune, and we'll get things shared on the Times-Tribune Sports Facebook page as well. So there's a lot going on, and we'll give you all the coverage that we possibly can in the meantime. So Joby, once again, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.